Hello.
Hi, I'm Cortney. Nice to meet you. But I'm still going to see you.
Yes. So when I told Will this morning, my trainer, that what was going on tonight, yes, he said to me, "Oh, Santa Barbara, that would be a really good place to go visit."
Yes.
Guess who needs the chair?
There you go.
There you
Perfect
go.
transition.
So wherever you go,
Wherever you go.
there you are.
So when you presented to the world initially this concept and this being one of the newer focuses of your work.
Understanding where you lie to yourself is such a challenge,
Yeah.
right? Like you were just saying, it's so hard to be self-aware, and it's a
Correct.
constant. So like your client you were just mentioning, who's like, oh no, I'll stay at the company.
Right.
That's amazing self-awareness, which is awesome. But then she has to watch herself when she gets there, because when she gets into a position where now she is in a toxic environment and she realizes it because she's
Right.
paying attention,
Right.
now she has to make a choice and decide how she wants to live her life.
And I think that if we collectively could learn how to help people go from the point of awareness to the point of shifting that awareness into an action that helps them actually have a better outcome. You know, in that little conversation, I will tell you, she's actually just a business acquaintance, and we were over lunch and we were having a magnificent salmon. And when she said it, and I realized how silly it was, well, oh, of course you'd leave. Oh, no, I don't. Oh, so it was easy for me to make a suggestion in that
Yeah.
case, because so much of what I do is within business. What I know to be true is if you believe you have the financial resources, and it doesn't have to be the millions of dollars, it just has to be, if I know I've got 3 months where I have clear sailing, I'm going to be a little braver. But I'm more interested in when you're finding it in people, like with the exaholics.
Yes.
I think that's such a great concept.
So Exaholics is really looking at love as an addiction. So when you break up with somebody, what happens in your brain looks very much like it does when you're on cocaine. It's kind of fascinating, actually. And we call that a process addiction or behavioral addiction, when you're addicted to an experience or an event or a person. It's not that you're ingesting a drug, but your brain is creating the same hormonal responses and the same activations that you would see if you actually were taking a drug.
Right.
So you see it in gambling, you see it in eating, and you can see it in relationships. And probably everyone out there knows, either has been addicted to an ex at
Correct.
some level,
Correct.
or knows somebody who's been addicted to an ex. And you watch this train wreck of a breakup happen, and you see the person, or you yourself have felt like you are losing your mind.
Right.
You can't stop thinking about them.
Right.
You want to check email. You want to check up on them. You are crying yourself to sleep at night. It feels like the end of the world. That looks very much like an addiction.
Right. And I think, you said the emails, the texting. I believe because we have become accustomed to holding on, we actually carry our phones everywhere, that it actually makes it worse, because we honestly aren't aware how many times we look at our phones even though there's no purpose for us to look at our phone. So if you're in a state of upset, I've got to believe if you're, whether it's a lover or waiting for a boss to do a review, to find out if you've got a promotion or if you still have a job, holding on to that phone itself has got to add a level of craziness.
I'm sure it does. I mean, it's going to give you a little dopamine hit at the least.
Yeah.
And at the most, it's going to feel really obsessive. And we can get really obsessive about checking our phones.
Right.
Who's called? Did I get a new email? Do I need to respond? It's such a high-paced, kind of high-intensity experience.
Right.
And that isn't always great for you.
Right.
In addition, we know that impulsivity can be very problematic from an emotional perspective. So one thing that humans, we generally try to do is when we're having a negative emotional experience, let's say you're really sad or you're really anxious, you're really depressed, you seek out some sort of evidence or some sort of stimulation that will, at least in the short term, relieve that feeling, because the feeling is so uncomfortable. Nobody wants to feel bad. And so what we do is we act out. Maybe I shop, I go shopping and spend a lot of money, or I eat, or I try to find out what my ex is doing. And in that moment, like in the really short term, it's actually highly effective at alleviating negative emotion. That's part of the hard part. So if you do something impulsively, you ate that bag of M&Ms, and by goodness, at the moment it tasted great, and for a
And the
second
sugar does
it was
work,
great. And it does, and you get this sugar high.
I know, I have a little
Wonderful.
experience.
You've been there.
Yeah,
I think all
a
of
jelly
us have been
bean
there.
or an M&M or so
So
has
think
relieved.
about it. Like
No.
2 minutes in, you're like, oh yeah, that was awesome.
Right.
5 minutes in, you're like, oh, that might not have been the best call. An hour later, you're actually probably at a worse emotional spot than before you engaged in whatever
Well,
the behavior
and when
was.
you have just enough OCD to be useful, as I say I do, by the time I'm into the hour, I am now checking how much dye is in those jelly beans, or if it has corn syrup, things I normally wouldn't eat. You know, yeah.
And if you're in my office, usually you're on the way to the grocery store to get another bag.
Oh, no.
Or 2 or 5.
Right.
Which at the end of the day, again, for that moment, you're going to feel a little relief. Like for an exaholic, trying to find out what their ex is doing by checking their Facebook, or hacking into their email, or asking friends, whatever that is, for a minute feels better. It actually does feel comforting.
I have to say, I had someone in my preview this week who went through a whole thing about a relationship issue, and how she was actually making relatively good decisions in moments of upset, but there was other things she wanted to do, like reach out. So she kept going around to different acquaintances until one aligned with this thing that she wanted to do. And I had a male in my world a week or two before do the same exact thing. He knew what the right decision was and was very logical in telling me what the correct decision was. And then he went around asking just enough people that actually told him to go do the thing that wasn't nearly as logical or wasn't going to. And it was like, yeah, you stayed in that game just long enough to find somebody who agreed with the wrong thing, not what you were supposed to do. And we do that. And I think that's our self-deception. Oh, I asked my friends. Oh, I didn't just act on my own. Oh, when I make this bad business decision, I actually talked to a few people about it first. Well, that makes it them all wrong, and it really a bad decision. Like, how does that work?
Well, we tend as humans to look for and align with people who agree with us.
There you go.
Even if we're wrong.
There you go.
And you see that everywhere.
Oh, a dear friend, Claire, of mine, who you've met, has always said that about Richard and I. She said, you know, Richard actually listens to you even when he shouldn't.
Oh, my
yes.
goodness.
Yeah, because as you well know, I would be one who actually cuts things off a little quicker than the average bear.
Not shocking to me.
Okay, you know what? I get confused that these people take so long to get it right. It's like, really? I have the opposite problem, where I move a little too quickly. I will make a decision to cut something off, and all the parts of what we need to be aware of ourselves. And I realized, oh my gosh, I do take a lot of nonsense, whether it's in a job, in a friendship, in a relationship. And then when there's like, I was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. And so I had to watch that, because people are unprepared.
Well, you're pointing out one of my favorite ways to help people understand their self-deception.
Okay.
Which is this. Where are you most reactive? When you have a strong emotional
There you
reaction
go.
to something somebody says about you, you are like this.
Yeah.
And your reaction is, no, not me.
No.
Those are the best moments to take a minute and sit with yourself and say, what about this is true?
Yeah.
Because I am clearly having an emotional reaction that's stronger than would be expected. Because look, if it wasn't true, you might just be like, oh yeah, I kind of am like that. And it costs you nothing.
Right.
You don't have the reactivity in the same way.
Right.
When we are reactive, there's almost always something in there that's touching on an insecurity around something we don't want to acknowledge as true.
And I know that to be absolutely my greatest teachers. I call them in my work, people will tell me about those instances and their situations, and they'll actually be unhappy that it occurs. And for me, it is the greatest gift.
For sure.
Because if you ever want to know what the next thing it is that you need to do, just keep note of those reactions. The not me, couldn't be, how dare you say it. Oh yeah, that maybe I better pay attention. Maybe I better pay attention, because I know that I couldn't agree with you more on that. It absolutely works. You know, there was something else that, as we have our pretty roses
they're
with us
awesome.
today. I know, I wanted to. So several years ago, you did a TEDx talk.
Yes.
And at the end of that TEDx talk, would you tell everyone what it was that you did?
I resigned from a tenured academic position, which is not a very common thing to do once you get tenure in a university setting.
Right. And that was such a cool ending. And now a number of years have passed. And part of the roses is that you're embarking on this next great adventure.
Yes.
So one of the things that I love to do when I talk to people in these little V-blogs is I really want you to think a year out.
From today?
From
A
today.
year out from today?
A year out from today.
Yeah.
And we're hanging out. I'm coming.
You're coming to visit
I'm
me.
coming to visit you.
Yes.
Let's just be clear.
Yes.
And I'm going to say, so what was the best part about this move for you?
I picture myself on the ocean, which is a very healing environment for me. I love the ocean. There's something so spiritually grounding about it.
Right.
I think I will look back and say, this was the right choice for me as a human being, as opposed to the right choice for me based on what I should be doing.
Great.
In my career, as a friend, as a whatever. I'm
Okay.
making this choice because I think it's the right thing for my own personal growth and evolution.
Oh, beautiful. So the mystery's going to be there. I can't wait for that conversation to take place.
Right?
Yes, no. You have always been attracted to that water, and when people put themselves in the environments where they identify it as the thing that brings their own spirit alive, what comes next can only be incredible. I love you, my friend.
Oh, I love you so much.
Mwah.
So awesome.
Now, make sure everyone knows who you are and your website and all those
yeah.
other good things.
My name is Dr. Cortney Warren. My website is choosehonesty.com. CHOOSEHONESTY.com. Because really, if you want to live a fulfilling life, you have to start by being honest with yourself about who you are and what you want that life to look like.